CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Calvin Alexander.
Welcome back to the latest and greatest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glenn Alexander. And on tonight's episode, we got a quick one here tonight, but it's a real special one. We're joined by a fellow collaborator on the College Huddle Network. Got Caleb here joining from Hogs on the Hill. Get some Arkansas perspective in the house here before this weekend. Caleb, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. We just wrapped up, you jumping on our show and, giving that Oklahoma State perspective for us Arkansas fans over here. So, we're happy to come over here and do the same for you guys.
No, thanks so much. Yeah, if you get a chance there, I joined for the last 30 minutes or so of the show and definitely let my Oklahoma State takes flow there as well. But Caleb, I want to ask you here. We kind of teed it up here. I gave, I'll let all the listeners take a chance to listen to you guys and what tips and tricks I gave them to here's how you can beat Oklahoma State. Here's what to do. But how could Oklahoma State fans look at it and what could we think hey, here's the tips and tricks to beat Arkansas?
Yeah, I think for sure for Arkansas, would be, I would say lean heavy on Ollie Gordon. He's as good as advertised. And I mean, no matter how good a defense you have, it's going to be hard to control a guy the entire game. He's bound to break a run, at some point. And then I think it would be just testing our secondary. I mean, we lost a few guys to, whether they graduated and ran out of eligibility or, got drafted or whatever. And so, I think we've got a young secondary and, our linebacker core that, is very talented, but not as experienced as what we would like it to be. And then as far as for you guys on defense, I think we'll just be putting pressure on Taylor Green, with this being his first season, coming over from Boise State in the Mountain West to the SEC and, a higher atmosphere, if you will. And, he may not have played in any of these situations before with, we talked about in my show just a few minutes ago, the crowd noise, how's that going to affect him, when he might not necessarily have seen anything like that before. You can simulate it all you want, but until you get into the real thing, it's going to be different.
Yeah. So, we dropped a bunch, of information on your show as well too, but I kind of want to recap a couple of things here as well. Sam Pittman from El Reno or Grove, Oklahoma, depending on exactly where you're looking at it. So that's kind of a cool thing, but he is 24-25 so far at Arkansas. What's kind of the vibes with, Sam Pittman? Is he, you guys like him a lot so far? Is he kind of on the hot seat? What are you guys feeling here?
Yeah, I think as far as, the state of Arkansas and Arkansas fans liked him. I think it could honestly be 50-50. Ask some people, they love what he's done with the program. Some people think it's time to go. But, from my perspective, I like what he's done with the program. Last year, yes, was a bad year based on, expectations we had. You look at what he did. He came in and really took the job when nobody else wanted it. It was after the terrible Chad Morris era. You didn't really know where to go. Nobody really wanted to come take over kind of the fire that was left behind. He came in, and that was around COVID year, but in the next year or two took us to a 9-win season, and that it was kind of the peak. And then you had, last year happened, high expectations, you have KJ returning, you got Rocket Sanders coming back, all these things that seem to be falling into place for us to have a decent year. And then horrendous offensive line play and, a change in offensive coordinators and schemes happened and, things went downhill pretty fast. But I think the consensus here in Arkansas is, it is a hot seat year for Pittman. And I think, it's one of the things that if we don't see improved play, especially in the offensive line, because that's what he's known for, I think he's got to win 7 to 8 games, get a bowl game to really keep his job here. And, I would hate to see him leave, but, you're in the SEC and, this fan base wants to win and have success. I mean, we've had success in baseball and basketball over the past few years and, football has been kind of left behind in a sense.
Yeah. I gotta say the other fun, I guess, info is you say he's an O-line guy. I mean, Sam Pittman's entire coaching career so far, besides being the head coach at Arkansas, he has been either the associate head coach and offensive line coach or just the offensive line coach going all the way back to 96 when he was a coach there for the offensive tackle and tight ends. So that's the last time he wasn't just the O-line coach. He's bringing in Bobby Petrino in for this year, though, on the offense. Is that something where you guys were huge fans of coming in the season? I know you've seen one game, beat Arkansas Pine Bluff, so I'm not necessarily asking you a bunch of, hey, what you think about the first game by Petrino calling it? Because we talked about it for a while just a couple minutes ago. It seemed vanilla to you guys, but is there also any takeaways from the first game and how Petrino, drew up some plays?
Yeah, and I think that's another one that's divided the fan base. You had, a lot of people that wanted him back and hated to see him go, 10 years ago. But then there's still some people that think, regardless of, what happened and however long ago was, he doesn't deserve to be back. And, there's been people that I've been told, the old adage of time heals all wounds. It's been 10 years, he's, earned forgiveness or, but I think there's a lot of people that think he still has a lot to prove here. I mean, he comes in, and I think after last year, that was the smartest thing to do as far as a splash hire, because you don't want to get rid of Pittman and have his buyout after we were already paying Dan Enos's buyout after firing him mid-season last year. So you're already paying one buyout. And, the other question that I posed to people that said, oh, we should have gotten rid of Pittman last year. Who are you going to go out and get? Who are you going to go hire that's going to be any better than what Pittman is? And then also start over, the cycle again of having to recruit your type of players and, change your scheme up and things like that. So I think that was probably the best hire that Arkansas could do for themselves. But, I think he does have a lot to prove. He loved Arkansas. We have a, football athletics center on campus that he designed, and he worked with contractors and designed himself, and a lot of people call it the house that Petrino built, but never got to saw it because he got fired before it was completed.
Yeah, it is interesting when you come in with a guy with that controversy, but one thing you said there is something that I almost immediately want to have something to say back to about who else you're going to go get. Last year, Oklahoma State fans know this, we lost 2 straight games. Granted, one was at home to South Alabama where he put up whole 7 points, and it just was really bad. The week before then, we beat Arizona State at Arizona State, and the week before then, to open up the season, we beat University of Central Arkansas, which I'm not sure how they fare in your guys' world, but you guys just played UAPB. We played in 2022, oddly enough. So I'm not sure how they all figure in, but we said, hey, the sky's falling. Gundy's not really in the NIL, doesn't really want to deal with the transfer stuff, all out on it. And we're also playing 3 quarterbacks basically for that, first 3 games, where it worked out okay for the first 2, but you'd like to put up more than 27 on, Central Arkansas. And then you definitely want to put up more than 27 against Arizona State. So then when the third game comes around, we play South Alabama, and you're still playing 3 different quarterbacks. Ollie Gordon gets the ball 9 times. Just looks bad overall. And then we lose to Iowa State. Granted, at Iowa State, but by 7, who did not have a great year last year either. I was going, hey, sky's falling. What are we going to do? We got to get somebody else in the door. Who can we get besides Gundy? It's got to be some change. And what you're saying just rings extremely true. Who else are you going to go get? Like, who's better? You guys brought in the offensive line associate head coach from Georgia, to come coach at Arkansas. You would figure that would, transfer a lot of stuff over and really help out, but it'll take time. And of course, that's what Gundy has taken here at Oklahoma State. How do you guys as Arkansas fans see Gundy? Do you think he is, on a pedestal? Do you think he's an average head coach, or would you take him tomorrow if he was available?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, and we've talked about this with people. It's one of those things where I've heard his name float around for Arkansas. A few times the job's been opening. I think it was floated around back before we hired Chad Morris and things like that. And I think some Arkansas fans would take him in a heartbeat. And I think it's one of those things where at Oklahoma State and the program that he's built, you have continuous or very similar success every year, where like there's no super high highs or low dips where it's just absolutely terrible. Like last year we won 4 games, where you guys are consistently, winning 6, 7, 8 games, getting to some bowl games, and that's, keeping the fan base at bay, from an Arkansas perspective, which is what we want. We want to have just maybe some consistency. And, we had that a little bit with Bielema when he was here. But I think the big thing with him was he could never really get over that hump of, we would have a good line, we'd have a good season, but, you'd lose those tight games, or, in the second half games would, you'd be, winning those games, and then teams would just creep back in. And, it was like the phrase of he didn't really keep the foot on the gas in the second half and try to play that grind game. Let's hand off the ball 20 times and try to run out the clock.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's I mean that's it's kind of interesting, overall, just because Gundy seems like he flirted with Tennessee and maybe some, other type of head coach openings, maybe the NFL, but that all seems just so long ago, but also such a rumor mill type of deal. How that all came up, that whenever Gundy kind of was doing that stuff, I went, maybe he's just looking for, some different things on the contract. Then he has some off the field stuff with Chuba Hubbard. That kind of was a different contract deal. He gives back some money. And now he's in a situation now where I think he's beloved by most and has flipped the script completely on his image and stuff comparatively to where we were a year ago at this time. With that being said, here, game kicks off this Saturday, 11 a.m. on ABC, of course, Central Standard Time. Who's your pick? Biased or unbiased, whatever you think. What do you got the score?
Yeah, it's like I said on my show going into this game, before our first game, it made me nervous. I thought this was a game where it's going to affect our season. And I said, as Arkansas fans, we got to come in and we either have to, win the game or you lose it close. And I think it's one of those games where it's you said on our show, Vegas is hardly ever wrong. And, you're sitting at the, spread for this game being around 7 to 8 points, and it could dip closer, as you get closer to Saturday and kickoff. But, if I had to say right now, until Arkansas can prove to me that they can come out and win big games like this, I would have to say Oklahoma State wins this one. I think it's a tight game, 10 or less. I think is what happens, but, you never know. I'm hoping maybe, what all Arkansas fans want to see is Bobby Petrino comes out and you see glimpses, or you see the Bobby Petrino offenses of old that can come out and score and put up points. And then I think we have a fairly good enough defense to be able to at least contend and, get some stops enough to, if we were to win, to help us do that.
All right. Well, Caleb, I like what I hear. It all sounds good by me. You said Oklahoma State wins, even if it's by 1, in 50 overtimes, I'll take it. So win's a win. Where can everyone find you here and listen more of you guys and your guys' great content so far with Hogs on the Hill?
Yeah, you can go find us at Hogs on the Hill. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find our shows over on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts at. We go live every week. And then, we just started back up last week. We're doing 2 shows a week now, doing our regular main show. And then we're going to do a recap show after the game, whether that be right after the game, the next day. But you can find us there. And, we're live every week. Come join in the comments, ask your questions. And, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much here. If you're not already, please subscribe, follow at the CGA Tour, the Calvin Glenn Alexander Tour. Wherever you listen to podcasts, but especially YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, those. Thanks so much again, Caleb. We'll I'll be tuning in here, I'm sure, this Saturday at 11 a.m. and be really excited to see what happens either way. So thanks so much. And if you haven't already, go check out my takes and all type of stuff here in a little bit longer on their most recent episode there for Hogs on the Hill with Caleb and Seth. So thanks again, and we'll catch you guys again soon.